I'm Don Pratt, host of a show here on Rogers TV where we give you a perspective of police in your community. Welcome to Policing York Region. How ironic that we're saying we're doing this from Rogers TV, when in fact I'm actually doing this from home as a result of COVID, and my wife and I have chosen just to stay inside. Thanks to some modern technology, our producer Jonathan Russell and Rogers TV, we can all make this happen. But we want to talk about COVID. We want to talk about keeping you safe in your community. And to do that, we have a very good friend to Policing York Region, Sergeant Andy Pattenden. Andy, thanks so much for being here.
Thanks for having me, Don. And it's great to see that you're following the rules and staying home, self-isolating. Good job.
Yeah, you know, I mean, we hear it. I mean, I don't need to get into preaching about what we need to do with COVID and how we need to take care of ourselves. We have many health experts out there that are doing a fantastic job of that, but we wanted to talk about keeping ourselves safe in our community and what's YRP's role right now.
You know, we have a significant role, as do many, during these changing times, and I can tell you one of the biggest things for us has been change and adapting to it. In our police service, we always talk about our ability to improvise, adapt, and overcome, and that's exactly what we've all been doing, right from Chief Jolliffe, who's been a huge supporter of so many of us working from home wherever possible. Yes. While still maintaining our front line and all the great work we do in the community to make sure everybody's safe. So lots of changes, and I'd be happy to talk about a few of them with you.
Yeah, well, and you're right. Like one of the biggest changes, like we said, I'm doing this from my eat-in kitchen area, and a lot of people are doing the same thing. They're simply working from home, and it's probably one of the better practices that we can encourage right now.
Well, we've seen, you know, I mean, every day you see on the news our political officials throughout this country telling everybody stay at home. It's the best thing we can do, in addition to washing your hands and all the basic hygiene rules that we're talking about. But staying home is key, and that's really what a lot of our efforts are about now, because we're seeing a reduction in overall crime. We're down about 13% in crime. We're seeing a lot less vehicles on the road just because there are so many people staying at home,
right?
Which is great. But there are some issues with that we're seeing as well. And I can tell you one of them, with less cars on the road, what we are seeing is that speeds are up, and up in a big way. And we're seeing people, using these relatively empty roads as an opportunity to drive at incredibly high speeds.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of those reports in recent days. I know some of them I just found they were absolutely staggering about how fast people were going, how much over the speed limit they're going.
Yeah, we had one recently in Aurora that was a 50 kilometer per hour zone. The person was going 179 kilometers per hour.
Wow.
We've seen our neighboring services in the GTA, OPP as well. I saw one they got on the 401 over 200 kilometers per hour.
Holy.
People, again, taking advantage of this opportunity where there's empty roads to drive their vehicles at high speeds. And, those people who are out on the roads are definitely in a lot more danger when people are driving like that. So I can tell you that we don't have a reduced number of officers out on our roads. And in fact, without there being traffic court throughout the day or criminal court throughout the day, you're going to be seeing a lot more police cruisers out there. So we're watching for people that are speeding. And just a reminder, if you're caught stunt driving, last month alone, we had over 40 charges laid for stunt driving, which means you're driving in excess of 50 kilometers per hour over the speed limit, automatic license suspension, that vehicle's being towed to impound, and good luck with your insurance later on.
Yeah, absolutely. And it is worthy to note, though, and you hit on a good topic, that enforcement is still there. And if anything, it's increased, not decreased.
Oh, absolutely. We have just as many officers out on our roads in the community with less people out on the roads. The restaurants, the bars, they're not open. In fact, I've got a couple of pictures to share with you here.
Yes.
One of them is just a picture that one of our officers took out on the road. This picture right here is East Beaver Creek on a Friday night.
Wow.
This would have been a packed place on a Friday night, but this is, Friday night, I believe was last week or 2 weeks ago, not a car in the parking lot. So this is a good sign in that people are obeying those rules to stay home when possible, to use that physical distancing. But this is just, an example of it. And another area that we're seeing actually reduction in the numbers, which we talk so much about impaired driving, and was kind of joking with you that if there is one positive thing that's come out of COVID-19 is that our numbers of impaired drivers has actually dropped down, which is the first time we've seen this in years in York Region. So, it's taken a pandemic to do that, but I can tell you we're not slowing down on our enforcement. So this is an example of what current enforcement looks like for impaired driving, where we have our ride trucks set up out in a parking lot. We have cruisers out doing mobile ride, bringing in, stopping cars, checking them for sobriety. In the event that they're found or believed to be under the influence of alcohol or drugs, they will be placed under arrest and brought back to our ride truck, where we can maintain all that physical distancing without bringing them into our buildings in order to do those breath tests or drug tests.
Yeah, and that's something we've had the opportunity on talking about before, is the ride truck being basically a self-contained unit.
It really is. It has everything in there that our officers need to do their job. It's got an area where people that are under arrest can contact duty counsel or their lawyer and speak in private. And then as well as all the testing can be done there, and they can be released to somebody sober with a court date if they end up being charged. So it's a great tool for us. And right now we use it regularly, but right now we're definitely using it nearly every night of the week.
Yeah, it's a shame that this is what it took to reduce impaired driving. I can tell you that when we first started this show 5 years ago, impaired driving was one of our very first topics. And ever since, as you know, as you've reported on, it's only increased. So to see that number come down is, we can always be thankful of that.
Absolutely. And let's hope that maybe people have learned a bit of a lesson through this, that afterwards we don't see those numbers spike right back up. But I tell you, we're prepared for everything. Yeah,
absolutely. And you have to be. I mean, these are, we're certainly not the first people to be saying that we're in challenging times, but we are in challenging times. We're in changing times, and we all have to do what we can to help keep our neighbors safe, right?
Oh, absolutely. And it's just maintaining that physical distancing so important. And our officers have received all new training on how to do that as well. Staying at home is key. But I can also share with you that some people will be seeing our officers now wearing some of that personal protective equipment that we talk so much about. And this particular image here is a couple of our officers, and this is what they have, those N95 masks we hear about. They will be putting on those masks after it's believed that they could be entering a situation where their COVID-19 could be present. So if people are calling our communications, they will be asked a set of screening questions. And if any of those screening questions are positive, then what will end up happening is our officers will have extra personal protective equipment on when they arrive at the house or the scene to deal with the particular situation.
Yeah, so I mean, obviously you've got to keep your own officers safe. You have to keep yourself well, and you don't want to be part of the problem and spreading it, right?
Oh, absolutely. And our officers have been very quickly trained up on the things that they need to be doing to protect themselves as well as the community that we serve.
Absolutely. And it comes right back to everybody keeping safe, right? I mean, we take a look out our front window, and we're used to seeing a buzz of cars and a buzz of people, and that is reduced significantly.
Oh, it certainly has. Just the overall number of people on our roads is down, which also means the number of traffic violations we've handed out are down. So, but as well, some other crime trends we're noticing here is with everybody being at home, one of the concerning pieces for us that we're seeing is that the number of domestic incidents is on the rise. We're probably up about 22% in the number of calls for domestic incidents. That can range anything from a verbal argument where police are called all the way through the most extreme cases of domestic violence. So that's something that we're very concerned about, that we are noticing in our community right now. And, we definitely encourage people, if they're in a situation that is volatile, there's a lot of community support services out there. We do recommend you reach out on our website, yrp.ca. We have links to many, many community resources, and I encourage you to check it out if you do think that you're in a vulnerable situation and you do want help.
Yeah, unfortunately, there is a lot of that happening with everyone being basically on lockdown in their own homes, right? We're spending a lot more time with our significant others, and perhaps it's not something everyone is used to.
With family as well, right? Just with kids being home now,
sure.
Everyone's going through a lot of changes. We implore people to use their patience to understand that better times are ahead, but to do what you can to stay safe while you're isolating in your home.
Yeah, and you're right. I mean, it wasn't so long ago that we had March break. And, we were all expecting our kids and grandkids to go back to school. And of course, that hasn't happened.
No, that has not happened. And it actually, to me, March break seems like a long time ago with having 3 kids at home on myself. I can tell you that we've been doing a lot of at-home learning and things like that. But as well, one thing I do want to bring up, with kids being at home, there's a lot of extra time being spent online gaming. I know my kids are obsessed with Fortnite. So we did throw out some tips on our social media channels and things we want to talk about here is that, with the kids being at home, watch what they're doing online. There are people out there looking to take advantage of the kids that are at home using gaming right now. Try and game with your kids if you can, is a great thing to do. Watch how they've got their profiles set up. If you're not watching it in, they're changing things. They can be putting out a lot of personal information that you don't necessarily want to share with people that might be on there gaming and looking to do things.
No, and that's great advice to share, right? I mean, we're not always in tune with what our kids are doing online, right? But Andy, we're going to flip over to a quick break, and I'd like to come back and continue the conversation on the online video games when we're
Good.
We'll be right back. Welcome back, everyone, as we continue our conversation with Sergeant Andy Pattenden from York Regional Police. And again, Andy, I got to thank you so much for being here. I know it's challenging times for everybody, including our police services. I mean, as we were talking about with all the changes. One thing I did want to mention, just so that, we don't typically date our shows, but we need to date this one because obviously COVID-19 is, it's not even changing daily anymore, it's changing hourly. So this show is being taped Wednesday, April the 8th of 2020. Andy, before the break, we were talking about online gaming. Now, I mean, before we went in, we were talking about, we don't always know what our kids are up to when they're on their computers.
It's totally important that, especially this time with the increase in the number of hours that children are spending online, with at-home online learning, as well as just gaming. Parents need to be there. They need to know. The number one tip that I hear and have heard even before all the stuff with COVID is that it really is important that the kids' electronic devices are in a common room, like a kitchen or somewhere where you can hear what's going on.
Absolutely.
There's so many games now that have microphones in our devices and people are talking on them. You need to be able to hear what the kids are talking about and, more importantly, what people are saying to them. I can't tell you how many inappropriate things I've caught on my own kids, not necessarily them, but people that they've entered into their games. I've been talking about that we've had to shut the mics off, shut the game down, and take a pause. And that really is one of the greatest tips that you can do right now is take a pause from the gaming. Find that time. We need to be inside our homes, but there's also a little bit of time that we can get out as long as we're maintaining that physical distance to grab some fresh air. Grab a bicycle, go for a bike, go for a walk. Just make sure you're maintaining that physical distance when you're doing it.
Yeah, no, that's one of the things that we encourage people to do often. I mean, go in the backyard and knock a football around or knock a soccer ball around in your backyard.
Absolutely. All those things we used to do before, you still can do. Just again, it's maintaining that physical distancing, but now more than ever, a little bit of fresh air and draining energy on the kids is super important.
Yeah, so talking about the online games, I mean, it kind of brings us into an area that we touch on quite a bit on Policing York Region, and that's fraud. We all know that the fraudsters are out there, and they do take advantage of the vulnerable and at vulnerable times, which would be
now. Yeah, I mean, our financial crimes unit has reached out to me yesterday with a whole bunch of tips and things that they're seeing based on the complaints that are coming in. And if you haven't yet received a text message on your phone talking about a donation for COVID-19 or anything like that, I'd be really surprised, as so many people have, as well as those emails with the links, embedded links in them. We call those phishing scams, and what they are is, they put them out there. People at a time like this are generous. They want to donate, they want to help, and they get suckered into clicking on these links. And once you click on those links, it's the flow of your private information begins to whatever the fraudster or wherever the fraudster might be. And so often they're somewhere else in the world. They're not even here in Canada. So be really, really careful clicking on anything in an email, in a text message. What we do encourage people to do is, if it does look like a legitimate charity that is reaching out to people, go to that charity's website.
That's right.
Find out the direct contact information for that charity. See if it's legitimate. Talk to somebody on the phone. Find out before donating anything. And we really caution people right now on giving anybody any personal information, especially your SIN number, your bank account information. It's never a good idea, but especially now we know, just as you said, there's a lot of fraudsters out there preying on people. One other area actually they've made us aware of is, and you've heard so much about, is that price gouging.
Yes.
In York Region, I have had a few people send me copies of ads for personal protective equipment, or in some cases, filtration systems that are going to prevent COVID-19 in your home. So much of that is not true. It's not real. And the amount of money that people are charging for some of these fake systems is outrageous. So if you do receive anything like that, definitely don't respond to it. You can reach out to us on our non-emergency line, 866-876-5423, to report it. We also have a very robust online reporting system.
Yes.
I encourage you to have a look at that, yrp.ca. For things like the frauds that are going on right now, it's a great portal to upload information to us, and that way we can investigate it quickly.
Yeah, absolutely. I can tell you that, nobody is a stranger to receiving fraudulent emails, fraudulent texts. I mean, we've all received them, from time to time. We hadn't seen any rather, for some time on our own personal devices, but these last couple of weeks, they've really been ramping up.
Well, we were, as tax season approached, it started again with the CRA scams, but the fraudsters have very quickly morphed that into COVID-19 relief efforts. So watch out for it. They're rampant. I can tell you, I know I've received, even on my York Regional Police mobile device, I've received these messages, and so they're out there. So just be very careful.
Yeah, I can tell you, you touched on the CRA, the Canadian Revenue Agency. One of the emails that I have sitting on my desk, I actually shared it with somebody in your financial fraud unit, was all you need to do is provide us your banking information, and we'll gladly donate, or rather, we will gladly deposit these funds for you. Yeah.
Oh, they love to advertise as being just so simple, but don't do it. Don't get suckered into it. And as well, one thing about frauds, we know a lot of people fall for these scams.
Yes.
But it's also one of the most underreported crimes that there are out there, because once people fall for it, they lose the money. They become very embarrassed to want to talk about it. We need you to come forward if you have fallen victim to it. We need people to report it. Again, you can do it online. It's a simple way to get us your information. A reliable source of a place to put your information is with us. And we can investigate it further.
Yeah, no, and you're absolutely right. I mean, this is what happens to people is they do become embarrassed because they've fallen victim, and how on earth did I let that happen to me? Yeah. We always remind people that these fraudsters are just like you're a professional in what you do. These fraudsters are a professional in what they do.
Yeah, absolutely. Another just a key sign to look out for in these requests is any sort of payment through Bitcoin, or any sort of payment through gift cards like iTunes gift cards. We see it. We see people going to these Bitcoin machines and shoving cash in them, making these payments. We see them going to their local store to pick up these mass amounts of gift cards to send off.
Yep.
Please just don't fall victim to it.
No, we've heard much of that. With the as you said, the iTunes cards and what have you. And we need to remind people too that, and it's really the simplest message. If it sounds too good to be true, there's a reality to that.
Oh, absolutely. That's just a standard rule of thumb we always talk about. Just as you said, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is.
Yeah, absolutely. So, earlier, Andy, we were talking about basically increased enforcement, or at least an increased presence, I guess I'll say, from all police services, including York Regional Police. And then we have what's called the Emergency Management and Civil Protections Act. Can you offer some clarity to that?
Yeah, it's new legislation. Well, it's not new, but it's been enacted and allows the government to put in certain protocols and allows us to enforce it. So I can tell you that so far, since COVID-19 and the enacting of this act, we've actually have received more than 700 calls into our communication center talking about businesses that are open when they should be closed, as well as talking about people that are not maintaining their physical distancing. So we are investigating. We have the authority to lay charges. They're very significant fines, starting at around $700 and going up from there.
Yeah,
so far, I can tell you at this point in time, we've laid 12 of those charges.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, so our officers are very much in education mode right now. If we spot something, we respond to it. We try to educate people. But if they're not getting the lesson, they're not understanding what's going on, we will lay these charges. And I think we're going to see over the next couple of weeks, if people are not abiding by these rules, there will be more charges laid.
Yeah, and I think we're all aware, as you alluded to earlier, our political officials have, and the medical professionals have all given us very stern, staunch, and real warnings. And now they're starting to say, okay, well, maybe it's time to start enforcing if certain people aren't getting the message.
Yeah, I can tell you enforcement time has definitely begun. So, again, we want to remind people about these rules. They've been made very clear. So, if you think someone doesn't know, please tell them, ask a friend, ask around. Lots of resources online as to what you should or shouldn't be doing.
Sure.
But again, our officers are educating first, but if people are not getting the message, and we're really concerned about this upcoming weekend with it being Easter as well as Passover, that we are going to see people congregating in that more than five people and in tight quarters to try and celebrate these important holidays. But everyone's saying, please stay home, wait till next year to celebrate Easter or Passover, and acknowledge it just with your close family inside your home. But please be very careful and do not gather in large numbers.
No, and just exactly the platform that you and I are using right now to get our message out to our community, we can do that with our families as well.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I've been on regular calls with my family who don't live in the GTA area, some in the US, some out west. We're all keeping in touch. Everyone's had to adapt to new technology. And then what's great is people are adapting and very quickly. So it's very encouraging to see. The other encouraging thing, Don, I did want to bring up is that we're seeing some great work from our community as well as our healthcare workers, our frontline healthcare workers. I wanted to share you a picture with you that we noticed off of our Twitter account. And this is a young man who is doing his part in physical distancing, and he's spending some time out on the road drawing pictures of York Regional Police and Air 2. And we couldn't be more proud of this young guy who's doing what he can, getting some fresh air and keeping busy. And I'm sure his parents are happy as well that he's doing that. But as well, you're going to see things, if you haven't already, in our community. Officers, all frontline workers, police, fire, paramedics, paying tribute to the frontline healthcare workers.
Very important. Very important.
And they're the front line in this fight right now. I mean, as we've talked about, crime is down a little bit right now, and all the attention and our focus is on our frontline workers. And this video you're showing now is a tribute that we paid to them at South Lake Hospital in Newmarket. It was our officers along with fire, paramedics, and citizens as well who heard about it, all gathered and got in front of South Lake with the sirens, the lights going. We had a similar one down at Mackenzie Health and another one at Markham Stouffville. It's happening right across the world right now. But this is our way of giving back to those healthcare workers, and I can't thank them enough for the amazing work they're doing, how brave they are right now, and we're all in this together.
Yeah, when we refer to frontline and emergency response, sometimes the hospitals, doctors, nurses, they were kind of left out of that conversation. They sure are in the bright light right now.
Yeah, they really are. They're doing amazing work. And it's not just the medical workers as well. We want to remind people about the security officers as well. In
Right.
the early days of the COVID scare, when people started going to hospital, just showing you a picture here of one of the security guards at South Lake. They were being really bothered by people who were trying to push their way into the hospital to get
Yes.
tested and get treatment. Yes. We're imploring people to use patience, understand that these healthcare workers are working tremendously
Andy, we're just
hard.
not going to have enough time to get to the very end of our discussion, but I really want to thank you for being here.
No problem.
And I would just, on our behalf, just want to remind people, keep yourself safe and your neighbors. Thanks, Andy.
Thank you.